Hi there, everyone. Welcome to a new series that I wanted to do when I was kind of going through my books. I've actually gone through my books twice since I started my channel, but I wanted to kind of do a series that I'm going to call Bookcase Showcase. I know a lot of people have done like bookshelf tours, and they're great. But the problem I've always had, which is why I sometimes don't watch them, is that they just tell you the name of it. They don't necessarily tell you what the book is about, especially if you don't know. And yeah, I don't have the biggest collection of books, but I do have some that I have thoughts on. But since I at least have a decent amount, it would take way too long. So I figured I would take all my books and then do about 5 to 6, depending on how many are actually in a grouping, and just kind of read the description, give my thoughts, and kind of tell you about it. So that way you can decide whether or not you want to get them or whatever. So I'm going to start with some of my taller books. I'm actually going from the top shelf down because, yeah, from about there's interesting stuff. So the first one that I have here is the complete book of MASH by Suzy Kalter. Yeah. This is a collection of little snippets and things from the show MASH. And if you were not a child of I think it was the 80s, you may not be aware of what MASH is. MASH is a show that is about a MASH stands for Mobile Army Surgical Hospital during the Korean War, or Korean police action, depending on who you were asking at the time. It was a war, just knowledge based. But in MASH, you have this group of people in Korea who are basically about 3 miles away from the front. And the MASH units were the ones where they come right off the line, get triage, get surgery, get like stitched up, and then sent on to Tokyo for recovery after, of course, spending a couple of days recovering for a little bit at the MASH units. Now, MASH ran for 11 seasons. I don't remember the years, but basically what this book does is it breaks down every single episode, and it will give you in-depth pictures with the cast. And one thing that I really love is that there's several episodes where the characters are writing letters to their friends and family. And they actually have, instead of a description of the episode, they have the actual like letter that is written. Now if I could find one, find a shorter one than that one, because there was one that was just like massively long. They have like here's the start of one. This is actually a report done by Radar O'Reilly, the company clerk, played by Gary Bergoff. It says, to Headquarters Seoul, Commanding General, from Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake, Commanding Officer. Subject, Weekly Activity Report and Personnel Record, period 17 October to 22nd October inclusive. 17 October. Incoming wounded, unusually heavy. All surgical personnel on full alert, working 24 hours. Among incoming surgical cases, one enemy prisoner, subheaded infantry, subheaded Chinese communist. Description of prisoner, wound attached. See schedule under wounds, Chinese, communist. And it literally just goes from there. And during the episodes, when you watch them, this dialogue is actually done by the actor. In this, it just has it written out. And it's really interesting because there's also like profiles of, I believe it is the actual characters themselves. Like one of my favorite characters is Jamie Farr's Corporal Klinger. He keeps trying to get out of the army on a Section 8 by wearing women's dresses. And he is one of my favorite characters because his whole arc, it basically came full circle because he spent all this time trying to get out of the army. only to fall in love with a Korean woman who would not leave Korea until she found her family. And he says, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm staying in Korea. And the only reason he wanted to get out is because he didn't want to die. And I'm like, that's a pretty powerful motivator. But I got this from my uncle. Actually, I got it from my mom, who got it from my uncle. And we're a big family of MASH fans, so. The next one I have here is actually a book my husband wanted, and that is Megaman X Official Complete Works by Capcom. And I think that's, yeah, it's just done by Capcom and Udon. What this is it is a kind of a concept art of the Mega Man video game. Various video games from its inception to current. Like we have Sigma, I think that was his name. Yeah. Yeah, Sigma and Vile, the villains. But my husband is a really big Mega Man fan. He's been a fan since he was young. And when he saw this at, I think, Barnes and Noble, he really wanted it. And I'm like, okay, you can get it. So how can I say no to him? He's such a big fan of Mega Man. He's really hoping that the small resurgence that has happened will continue so that he can have more Mega Man stuff. The next one I actually got at Goodwill, and this is more of a reference book. And it is Criminal Investigation, 3rd edition, by Bruce L. Berg and John J. Horgan. Horgan? Yeah, Horgan. This is actually a textbook, and I got this at Goodwill because I was working on the first Reaper's book. And I figured that it'd be nice to have a book that actually had information on crime scene investigations and anything of that sort. And kind of the cool, it's a little outdated, so it's not gonna have like, let's see, what's the copyright date on this thing? 1998. So it won't have a whole lot of like cyber crimes, but it does have like the, how do I put this? The actual procedurals that most cops would end up having to deal with, as far as like logistics. And I thought it would be really interesting just to kind of keep around. And it's got really nice kind of documentation. So for people who are doing like mysteries and all that kind of thing, so that they can have some kind of idea of the actual forensic and kind of police procedurals. So it's kind of in that vein of research. Then the next book I have is actually a gift from my husband. It is the Sherlock Holmes Puzzle Collection by Dr. John Watson. Just like it says, it's literally just a book of puzzles. So it's got really pretty covers and pages, and it's got like artwork in it. And each one of them is a particular mystery that you can try to solve. And they're really quick. There's certain ones that are a little quicker than others because they're just short. Like, here's one, the fifth curiosity. I've had a word, Holmes told me over breakfast, of a fellow who had turned up with some curious coins in his allotment. Fortunate for him, I dare say, Holmes replied. He reports that one of the coins is dated as far back as 1551 BC, while another is clearly marked Henry I. What do you make of it? And then, if you want to, you can just look up the solution. It's 223. Whoop. It is obviously bunk. The designation BC was not even invented until the year 532 AD, and when Henry I was monarch, he was known simply as Henry. He did not gain his appellate first until Henry II took the throne. So, they are a little advanced So unless you're like really into Sherlock Holmes, probably would be a little difficult for you, but it's interesting. I like Sherlock Holmes, probably not to the extent that I probably should to own something like this, but it's fascinating. And then for this last part of the collection, I'm actually going to go with one of my favorite books that I got when I was younger, which is the Sherrilyn Kenyon's The Dark Hunter Companion. This is a companion book to the Dark Hunters series. Sherrilyn Kenyon's Dark Hunters is very much sort of a vampire-esque series, and what this book does is it basically goes through the entire world and gives you information on them. And like it'll have information on particular people, on the language, on different subsections of the group. Like I know that towards the back they actually have a written out menu of the bar that is featured in it. Let me see if I can find it, because it's just so fascinating, like having this kind of thing in it, because the place is called Sanctuary, and if I remember correctly is owned by Werehunters. Well, there's a map. Yeah, because a lot of this takes place in New Orleans, so there's a map of it. And it also has locations of various establishments. It's got recipes, ways to pronounce names. It's just a really cool companion book. And for people who really enjoy the Dark Hunter series, I highly recommend this book. It's pretty decently thick. One of my good friends who actually got me into the series really likes this and wanted it. So I might let her borrow it eventually if she ever has time. But really good book, and even though I might not ever really go back to the Dark Hunter series, because warning, the Dark Hunter series will make you cry because of how heartbreaking it is. But I recommend it for people who enjoy romance with paranormal in it, so enjoy. And those were the first 5 books in my bookcase showcase. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!